QTV about the visit of Bassirou Diomaye Diakhar Faye, the newly elected president of Senegal, his first visit to the Gambia. Here in the studio, I have a friend and colleague, Mamadou Lamin Choi, who will be going through some of the discussions with me. But most importantly, we have at Banjul International Airport our colleague, Aliou Cisse, who will give us some of the flavor of what is happening before we see President Faye. Aliou, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ade and Modlamin Choi. I mean, if you are watching QTV, we are here live at the Banjul International Airport. I mean, where any moment from now, the president of Senegal, Bassirou Diomaye Diakhar Faye, will be arriving here to for a day-long visit. I mean, and then, as we understand right now, all the cabinet ministers and members from the diplomatic corps are all here awaiting the arrival of the Senegalese president. The president of the Republic, Adama Barrow, has also arrived. And then, I mean, any moment from now, like you said, Mr. Ade, the president will be visiting the Gambia. I mean, this is going to be his second visit. I mean, yesterday he was in Mauritania, and then today he'll be visiting the Gambia. You and I all know the relationship between Gambia and Senegal as close neighbors. So this visit is quite significant as far as, I mean, further strengthening the already existing relationship between the Gambia and Senegal. And I mean, from here, I mean, the visiting president will be going to his hotel, from where he will be going to State House, and then we understand, I mean, they are going to have a tete-a-tete before issuing a communique and later having a press conference with the media. But like you said, I mean, this is a quite important visit and very timely as far as, I mean, strengthening the relationship between Banjul and Dakar.
So, Aliou, I wonder if you could just set the scene for us so that the viewers know exactly what's happening. Who's there? We can see some people behind you. Who are those people?
Well, behind me, like I said, I mean, we have cabinet ministers. I mean, I think the whole cabinet is here today. And of course, I mean, others are officials from, I understand some representative of the Senegalese community are here. But of course, diplomats are equally all here. And yes, it's a cross-section of people from diverse sectors. I mean, of course, our fine men and women in uniform are also here, I mean, to provide the parade, which is given to a deserving visiting heads of state. So basically, that's what is here. The cabinet, the entire cabinet is here. And of course, I mean, like I said, members from the diplomatic and consular corps are all here.
Thank you, Aliou. And Mr. Choi.
Yes, I would have loved to ask him, you know.
I hope you can hear Choi. He has a question for you. Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Aliou.
I can hear Choi.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hello, Aliou, can you hear me?
He can't. What's the question? I'll ask it for you.
Not really. Maybe Mr. Ade can help in, you know,
because,
telling me what Choi's question is.
Communicate with some of the officials, you know, live.
Yes.
Maybe he have been interacting with some of them. What have they been saying when it comes to the significance of this visit?
In case you didn't get that, Aliou, what Choi is saying is that have you been able to interact with some of the officials who were there? And if so, what have they been saying about the significance of this visit?
Well, not yet. We haven't interacted with any of the officials here. But I mean, from the look, I mean, you will really read on their faces that, I mean, this is a visit that they all welcome. I mean, just to give you a teaser of what's been happening here. In fact, when we were coming to the airport at the main entrance, I mean, we passed, I mean, a quite sizable crowd of positive supporters who have also come, I mean, to welcome Diomaye. I mean, you all know how Diomaye came to the presidency. I mean, he was on the positive before actually later resigning when he was elected. But I mean, exactly. But then quite sizable supporters of positive supporters were seen on our way to the airport, I mean, to welcome Diomaye Faye.
Thank you for that, Aliou. So, Choi, you asked the question. Let me throw it to you. What is the significance of this visit?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Darami. This is his second visit. Of course, having visited the acting chair of the AU, who doubles as the president of Mauritania. Gambia is a very important, you know, partner. Senegal,
yeah,
our diplomatic relations, you know, existed for decades since we became independent, even before independence. So, President Diomaye Diakhar Faye's visit, you know, signals a new era, you know, a new era in diplomatic relations between the two countries. And by coming here also, for the first time, the two presidents will have the opportunity, to have a tete-a-tete and discuss some of the challenges, the opportunities, and also, possibly, sign, agreements or frameworks. These are expectations, of such visits. But of course, the Gambian media also will have the opportunity maybe to throw questions to President Barrow and President Jomai Jahar Faye to hear from both sides about, their expectations and their plans to further deepen the diplomatic ties between the two countries.
I mean, I'll stick to just President Faye without all the rest, but, you said about, the closeness in relation. Well, of course, there are a lot of Senegalese citizens living and working here in the Gambia. So because of that, of course, there are these ties. And so when the elections were on, of course, there was a lot of heightened expectations and anticipation as to what would happen. But how did you see it playing out here? Because we know how fraught some of the pre-election tension had been in Senegal. And of course, we had concerns, didn't we?
Yes, of course, because whatever happens in Senegal, of course, many Gambians were closely monitoring developments in Senegal's election, but not, out of the blue or in a vacuum, because Senegal and the Gambia, they are interdependent. Okay, we depend on each other geographically.
Of course,
Senegal almost surrounds the Gambia, entirely. So there are leverages Gambia has on Senegal. The same thing also, for Senegal. Gambia's gateway serves as, a remarkable access for Senegal, to the Atlantic Ocean. We also have, some of the Senegalese people in this country who are culturally, ethnically and historically linked.
Interlinked.
Yes.
Let me just interrupt you, Joy, for a minute, because I hope viewers can see, thanks to modern technology now, you can see the flight path of the aircraft, and we can see that it's coming towards, a point where it will land very, very soon. So if you look in the sort of bottom, kind of center of the image there, you will see the flight path of the airline, and so as we speak, you can track it in real time, as it were. So Choi, yes, back to you. You're talking about the way that we are sort of culturally and historically interlinked.
Yes. So because of that, the people of the two countries really pay so much attention to each other. When the Gambian election was on, there was so much interest. We saw, the Senegalese press, heavy presence of the Senegalese press showing much attention, because, there are in various fields that we cooperation in various fields, such as trade, such as, security, So the outcome of the election somehow will also affect the cooperation between the two countries. And this was why people were paying, so much attention to developments in that regard.
Well, indeed. Now, we always talk about this as being a kind of brotherly relationship, but of course, even brothers argue sometimes. And so, yes, at the state level, there's always been, sometimes there's been kind of good relations, sometimes frosty relations between our respective heads of state. But also on the personal level and the business level, it's not always been smooth. You yourself encountered an instance when we tried to get into Senegal, and I just wondered if you could just comment on that, because these are some of the things that we have to address and deal with, along the line. But of course, maybe the presidents won't speak about that.
Yes, there are challenges, of course, no matter how.
I think we can go to the Foreign Affairs Minister, and I hope we can hear what he has to say.
ak suñu mbokk yeeg suñ mag yi suñ rakk yi suñ nijaay yi yu nekk Sénégal pour ñu Gambie ak Sénégal ñu doon sample ci Africa, parce que Gambie ak Sénégal moom buñ mënut a nekk benn African Unity bu ñoo wax du musa am, parce que bi benn réew la yoo xam ne tubaab yi ñoo ñu xaajale waaye ñun ñëpp ñoo bokk culture doo am benn doo gis kenn koo xam ne amul mbokk Sénégal doo gis Sénégal tam koo xam ne amul mbokk fii loolu moo tax nag ñu war a góorgóorlu ñu dëggal lu ñoo wax saa yu nekk ne bopp bi benn la kenn mënu koo xar ñaar loolu nag naka lañ koo dëggalee mooy ñu liggéey ba suñ nit yi gis ci seen boppa tey mbégte bu mag la pour ñu dalal président Bassirou Diomaye Diakhar Faye fii ci Gambia.
That's the Foreign Affairs Minister Mamadou Tangara there speaking to the press. As you have heard from him speaking in Wolof, Mr. Ade, I mean, the Foreign Affairs Minister is just re-echoing what we have been talking about, the importance of this visit. I mean, like you have heard from him, Gambia and Senegal are one, just that, I mean, they were divided by the colonial masters. But other than that, I mean, these two countries share a lot in common. So basically, that's what the Foreign Affairs Minister has been sharing with us here at the airport. And like I said, any moment from now, the President of the Republic, Adama Barrow, will emerge from the new VVIP lounge, which is part of projects, I mean, here at the airport for the OIC hosting. So quite impressive atmosphere at the airport.
Thank you for that, Aliu. And as you rightly said, Minister Tangara there was echoing some of what we were already talking about, the close ties there, which of course everybody owes. And just to give him his full title, Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation and Gambians Abroad. Choi?
Yes. I just wanted to comment on what he has said. You know, in our local language, you go to Senegal, the same slogan. They would, they would tell you, the Gambia, the same slogan, Bene Bopula, is one head, one head that cannot be splitted. Yeah, got it. Okay, so that is important, and the fact that we were divided, in history. Of course, both countries were colonized by different, colonial, colonial. Masters.
I never use the word master. I just call them colonizers.
Yes, colonizers. So French and the British.
Yes.
And it is important for people to understand that there wasn't anything like...
Just to say that he's now entered Gambian airspace, the airline. Sorry, Troy, just for the viewers.
Yes. Yeah. So there wasn't... before 10th of August 1889, there wasn't anything like Gambia and Senegal.
Exactly.
So it was on the 10th of August 1889 when the British and the French crown, demarcated the boundaries, defining the territories, of Senegal and the Gambia. So before it was just Senegambia. Yeah. Of course, we also experienced empire sort of, we had the Jollof Empire,
of course,
okay, which spread across, Senegal and some parts of the Gambia, okay, and other, administrations, in history which happened and, covered the Gambia. So you look at, the state of Salem, for instance, coming from Kaolack, to Karang, and then touching the North Bank region. So this all goes to tell you that we are the same people, speaking the same language, eating the same food. Okay, when I traveled to China, I could literally look at people and I will tell this one is either from the Gambia or Senegal, even before the person speaks.
Right, yes.
And I will guess, and I would be accurate.
Yes, and it's something that when I tell people this, they don't believe me. When I tell people that here, that when Europeans hear or say this, they're like, well, how can you tell? Because to them, all black people just look like black people. But we can tell that we come from certain regions or we come from certain parts of the world. I see somebody who's Ghanaian and I say to one of my English friends, oh, he's Ghanaian, or, they're like, how can you tell? And then I say, okay, go and speak to them. And they're always surprised that we can do that. But you're right. And so as you said, colonizers kind of forced us into that's why I don't embrace these country boundaries at all. I pretty much reject them. I just call myself a child of the West African region. because, you know, why are you defending these countries that were created by these Europeans who just sat and drew lines on a map? You know, and that's where we find ourselves and Senegal. So as people can see, the flight is getting ever closer, and the moment of reckoning will come when he lands, and of course he will be greeted, his first visit here. As Aliou says, his first visit, of course, was to Mauritania, and, you know, no surprise that Mauritania and then the Gambia. Of course, everybody expected, or many people expected, that the first visit would be to the Gambia, because, as you said, the way that they sort of geographically enclose the Gambia. But of course, it's not to be. But, you know.
Yes, despite our, you know, our history, you know, of colonialism, you know, having been divided, these are two people. Today, when these two presidents meet, if they wish, they would not even use our official languages.
Correct, exactly.
Okay, President Jomar Jahar Faye and His Excellency President Adama Barrow can sit down and speak in Wolof.
Or any other language.
That
is one of our languages.
Yes. So in terms of communication, we can communicate better and have more mutual understanding. Because, you know, in diplomacy, or, you know, in people-to-people exchanges, culture is very important.
Very much so.
Okay? Yes. Because, you know, in terms of people-to-people contact, if we had not had the same languages and this, you know, the same cultures, it would be different. You know, there might be some cultural shocks, or sometimes, you know, we'll go to Senegal, and, you know, because we have some cultural differences, when they are here, you know, there might be some challenges when it comes to the two people understanding each other.
Sure.
They visit the Gambia. Okay, we also go to Senegal. But, you know, it almost feels like home in either of these two countries, you know, we are when it comes to exchanges. So there is more opportunity, you know, for communication, mutual understanding and cooperation between the two countries. And we must leverage on our history, on our culture, on our language in order to deepen the tie. For mutual, you know, it has to be mutual. Of course, there are challenges.
Yes, of course.
You know, there must be always challenges, because whether we like it or not, when President Jomar Jahar Faye comes here and speaks to our president, he will put his national interest first.
As every president should for his country.
Okay. Yeah. The same thing we would also expect President Adama Barrow to put the national interest of the Gambia first. But where do we balance these two?
And where are things that can be mutually beneficial?
Yes.
I mean, that's what both of them would also be talking about, we would expect. It's a brief visit, and not only that, he's going to come here in another few days' time, when, of course, for the OIC conference.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it's good that he's coming. He could have said, oh, I'll wait to that, but I think if he'd done that, there would have been, people would have talked and said, why is he waiting so long? And of course, he's come here, but again, in less than a couple of weeks, he'll be back here again for the OIC summit. So it's good that he's come here. And as you rightly say, you know, each president has set out their agenda for the benefit of the country.
Yes.
And he's already, in his campaigning, he's set out his agenda quite clearly as to what he expects to do. And so we expect that. You know.
So what people are saying is, you know, this ceremony of his visit today. But in the background, you know, a lot of things must have been happening, a lot of preparations between the foreign ministries of the, you know, of the two governments.
Yep.
Okay, potential, you know, framework agreements.
Of course,
you know, we can expect that. Okay, this ceremony will set the tone for a new era in, you know, a new era of cooperation between the two countries, and that is important. Despite the national interest of both, you know, both countries, to be, you know, to be discussed, or which will highly likely dominate, you know, when it comes to their discussions. They must reach a balance. A balance here is a compromise. Of course, compromise is you have interest in this, I have my interest, and you have your interest, but we should be ready to, you know, to give in. Okay, we must be ready to, you know, to say, okay, despite my interest, I am ready to give this.
Yes.
And you also say, despite the interest I have in this, I'm ready to sacrifice.
Yes.
The key word here is...
Where's the meeting point?
Yes, yes.
Between I give something, you give something.
You give something.
So we get something that is mutually beneficial.
Yes, and you know, it all boils down to mutual cooperation. The word mutual is always used, you know, in diplomatic languages.
Of course.
So, of course, if it doesn't exist, there is no cooperation.
Well, that's right. So let's go back now to history. Whilst we're still waiting, we can see some people walking close to the red carpet and some more dignitaries arriving there from the scene there. I don't know if there's any update we can get from our colleague Aliou Cisse. For viewers who are watching, you would have seen on the screen that the flight was getting ever closer. I think, I don't know whether Aliou, can you hear us, and what have you been told as to how soon the flight will land? I don't know whether Aliou can hear us. Yeah.
You can still see.
Okay. Kunkudiang Bafuloto, and close to the airport. So he's nearly there. He's nearly there. And so I was going to say, go back to history. He's only Senegal's 5th president. Both Senegal and Gambia have not had that many presidents in 60+ years of thereabouts of independence. So he's only the 5th, but of course he's the youngest ever elected. We've had younger people, but many of them across Africa have come to power by coup d'etat. Young. So what are the expectations? You talked about expectations, you talked about mutual things that people want, but expectations have been raised, haven't they, by his very campaign, which took him all the way to the presidency. So what are your thoughts on those?
Yes, because when I watched them, when I followed them...
And now we can see on the screen, we can see the flight actually coming in. If you keep watching the screen, and there you can see the virtual picture as well as the real one of the flight coming in towards Banjul International Airport. And very soon it will touch down, and Bassirou Diomaye Diakhar Faye will be making his first official visit to Gambia. It might be interesting to ask him whether he's ever visited the Gambia before.
Before, yes. and that's in my mind right now.
Yeah, quite. Because of, as we talk about, the kind of geographical closeness.
He might have visited the Gambia.
And he might end up saying, but don't you know my uncle lives here, and I've visited him several times. Because people tend to have that,
For instance,
yes. And now, Aliou, as the flight is about to descend, I think we should go back to you. Aliou, please take it from here.
Yes, Mr. Ade, thank you very much. Like you said, I mean, the flight president of Bassirou Diomaye Diakhar Faye has just landed here at the Banjul International Airport. I mean, it's exactly, he was meant to land exactly 10 o'clock, and then, yes, I mean, it's just 10:30 here at the Banjul International Airport, and the flight has just landed. Bading only melbe QTV jube kan katnal ko albe QTV jube kan live influente mbali Banjul International Airport dila mi alon ko Senegal president wala mo Bassirou Diomaye Diakhar Faye wala mina kan Gambia bi pour ka lon keling tamo ke pour kana aning president Barrow e kacha ko mi alon ko asulata Gambia ni Senegal temo comme be ngalon ko nyamen nyim banko fulolo banko mi alon ko badi ngolam just that Senegal ka français kam le fo Gambia ka anglais kam bari nyaajubi e be mo badi kilingoti so mbok ngami da ngi sran QTV di len wax ne rek ñu ngi fi nga ne mo nek Banjul International Airport fi nga xamne flight bo nga ne si mo nek di indi nga ne mo nek Bassirou Diomaye Faye président Sénégal ex na fi ci Banjul International Airport fi nga xamne ti njiti rew mi président Adama Barrow ak yenen borom nomba tànka ñëpp ñu ngi fii nii gis nañ fi ministre yi gis nañ fi deputy speaker Sidi SK Ndiaye ak yeneen ambassadors ak ay nit ñoo xam ne ay sénégalais lañ ay ñaan ñu ngi fii Gambia ñoom yëpp ñëw nañ comme noonu ko ni kat gisee rek right now président Barrow mu ngi génn ci jóge ko fale ca VVIP lounge bi nga xam ne moom lañ sampa bokk projet yoo xam ne
And then we can see President Barrow there. arm raised and being applauded by the dignitaries who were there, and making his way along the red carpet, and he's just waving there. Of course, he will go and he will get to a certain point where he will stop and then greet his fellow president. This is the sort of normal thing that one expects on a state visit, of course. And of course, as we've said, you know, very, very close and cordial relations between the two countries. And I think at this point it's worth mentioning that, you know, over the time of his presidency, I think, Choi, it's fair to say that many people felt that he had established a relationship with President Macky Sall that appeared to go beyond just the normal, oh, we're neighbors. There seemed to be a certain amount of a friendship that went beyond just their presidencies. Well, was that the sense that you got as well?
Sure, absolutely. That was the sense, because you know, in history, Senegal has been quite, you know, has always manifested that brotherly, you know, generosity, you know, and support to the Gambia in terms of need.
Sure.
And the 1981 coup is a clear, you know, historical point for reference in this case. And also, not only that one, in fact, in 2016, after when we had our election,
exactly,
you know, the same thing.
Yes.
So 1981 Kuiko Sambasanyang coup, which was quite bloody, one of the, you know, bloodiest history of our country. And also, you know, Senegal dispatching, you know, its security to the country, because it is important for people to understand here, right when we attained independence, the reason why, you know, so many people doubted the, you know, the Gambia's viability, you know, to stand on its own, to be independent, to a point that, you know, a writer, you know, had a book called "The Gambia: The Birth of an Improbable Nation." So, of course, that was something of a concern to our colonizer, Great Britain, and, you know, at the Marlborough House discussions also featured, you know, how do we support the Gambia to be strong enough to be a viable nation. But they also considered Senegal as a very important, you know, country that will help to ensure that this is realized. And as a result of that, the UN also had to dispatch a team to come to the Gambia on a fact-finding mission, you know, on you know, the viability of the, you know, of the country.
Well, I'm smiling because if people go back online and they look at the kind of British news broadcasts of the day, even as Gambia attained independence, many of them kind of said with a smile in their voice, of course, at some point they will have a confederation with Senegal.
Yes,
they felt that was an inevitability for Gambia's survival. But now we can see that the ramp which carries the stairs is being wheeled out, and at some point it will be taken close to the aircraft. And of course, as one would imagine, heightened security for a visit such as this one. Yes, it's a friendly, it's a brotherly one, but nonetheless, nothing will be left to chance. So, of course, our security detail will be on very, very high alert. And we can see a flag there being waved from the cockpit. I can see a Senegalese flag. I don't know whether they were also brandishing a Gambian flag. And there, of course, we have the Republic of Senegal plane. I don't know whether they call it Air Force One, as the Americans do. They probably have a name for it.
Republic of Senegal.
Yes, of course. It's this emblazoned on the side.
Yes. So I was, you know, this both our colonial, you know, our colonizers had this concern, but also the UN team that was dispatched to the country also,
could this
you
nation
know,
survive?
the findings revealed, you know, the findings and the recommendations were that both countries must come together.
If I could just take the viewers back whilst we're talking, they can just see there the ramp which carries the stairs is being taken right up to the plane, and at some point it will make contact and we will see the doors open, and hopefully soon after that we will see Senegal's newest president descend.
Of course, yes. Most likely, his, you know, the members of his delegation will will descend first, then finally the president. There are some protocols on the ground.
Of course, yes.
All protocols will be observed here. And we'll see how
to
it
quote that famous
unfolds.
phrase. And so yes, and so obviously once they are certain that everything is safe, the signal will be given, and there we can see the tap at the top of the ramp, which has got the stairs, and he will be willing. So I don't know whether we can go, Ali. So I think it's good if we get the flavor direct from our colleague Aliou Cisse, who is on the ground. Aliou, over to you again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ade and Modlamin Choi. Like you said, I mean, the flight has now landed, and then any moment from now, President Bassirou Diomaye Diakhar Faye will disembark from his presidential flight. I mean, here at the Banjul International Airport. I heard you and Choi trying to give some historical perspective between these two countries from the 1981 coup, of course, I mean, to the 2017 impasse. I mean, we saw the role that Senegal played in the change of government. But, I mean, we have also seen, I mean, the relationship between President Barrow and the former president of Senegal, Macky Sall. And this is something that many here expect Diomaye Faye will also follow in the same footstep. I mean, these two countries, they share a lot in common. I mean, I don't think there's any Gambian who doesn't have a relative in Senegal, the same with Senegal as well. And then in promoting that spirit, I mean, the governments have a huge role to play in terms of their policies and bilateral agreements that they signed. I mean, I think everything will be based on mutual interest and respect. So basically, that's what's happening here at the Banjul International Airport. At the foot of the aircraft, I can see the Gambia's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Modou Tangara, and of course, I mean, security chiefs as well. I also saw the Senegalese High Commissioner to the Gambia, Bassirou Sen, is also on the ground here. And of course, like I said, Deputy Speaker Sidi SK Njai, Hamad Nkeba, Minister of Tourism, Babgar Ojouf, the Minister of Trade, Ismaila Cisse, Minister of Information, Usman Ba, I mean, Minister of Communication, Abdou Diop, I mean, Minister of Energy, Fatou Kinte, Minister of Gender, of course, Professor Per Gomez, Minister of Higher Education, Musa Drame, Minister of Environment, Ibrahim Silla, Minister of Works, and what was saying, I mean, Salimata Toure here, who is the Secretary General of Civil Service. Motorcade, the Chief of Staff, is also here. Alun Jai, Secretary of Cabinet. Rohi Malik Low, the Mayoress of Banjul, is also here, and other officials from the Ministry of Higher Education. And of course, members of the diplomatic corps are all here. I've seen, of course, I mean, the ECOWAS permanent rep to the Gambia. Lillian French is here. I've seen Lamin Manga, who is the Chancellor of Russia here in the country. Mr. Ade, your very good friend Lamin Manga is also here. But this shows the significance of this visit. And yes, that's the President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, who now disembarking from his flight, and he's being received by his counterpart, President Adama Barrow. A quite significant visit here, and something that will go down in the history of the of both countries. But like I said, I mean, this is not the first time that we have seen a Senegalese president visiting the Gambia immediately after their election. Macky Sall also did the same when he was elected. I mean, Gambia was the first country he visited. So that shows the importance that both countries have towards one another, because I mean, these two countries, I mean, like you keep on emphasizing, they have a lot in common. But I mean, that's exactly what is happening here. And like I said, we have our fine men and women here to give the parade, led by Lieutenant Colonel Abdoulaye Ba, who is the parade commander for this occasion here at the Banjul International Airport. Badingol Nyintamento, Senegal President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, Affelenti afotanang Banjul International Airport, Banko Nyaton ko President Adama Barrow, wale nata ka bendung kabring abe jikan ala kulunti la nyintamento Affelenti Bassirou Diomaye Faye aning President Adama Barrow ibe tama kan pour kana mi ala ko nyanta kan national anthem fulol bele julole wasila mi ala ko na banko security forces wala ba
Nah, so gini ngomong, mam lu aja. Saya flag lah aja, flag. Flag.
It's important and historic. As to Mamadou Sabali, special advisor to the president, of course, Lamin Saidi and many others are all here to welcome the president. I mean, a good section of the Senegalese community in the Gambia are also here, and of course, like I said earlier on our way to the airport, we passed a quite sizable supporter of PASTEF who are also come to receive the president. And like I said, I mean, the Senegalese High Commissioner Bassirou Sen is here, is also assisting the president in, of course, I mean, telling the visiting president who is who among this large crowd here at the Banjul International Airport. So, Mr. Ade, basically that's what's happening here right now. And then, like I said, I mean, the two heads of state will later have it started at the State House in Banjul before having a press conference with the media. Pamalik sister of is also here, and of course other officials of the government are all here. So this is a quite important visit for not just, I mean, the Gambia, but Senegal equally. Mr. Ade, it's over to you.
Thank you, Aliu. And I think, Choi, one of the things that we've seen already, if I can make a joke, sometimes when President Macky Sall came here, it was almost as if him and President Barrow were in Ashobi. They were almost identically dressed. We're not likely to see that with Bassirou Diomaye Faye because, as we saw from the first picture that was put out of his cabinet, where there were only 4 women, by the way, and they were the only ones, you know, those were the only ones who were wearing Africana. All the men were in Western suits, and we saw him descend here in a Western suit and tie. So, Choi, both in English and in local language, please, your sort of sense of, you know, the kind of dress sense is a kind of almost a return to the Senegalese presidents of old.
Yes, you know, it reminds me of Senghor's
type.
Style also,
Yeah,
type of.
Quite. Right.
Senghor was very close to the
I
French.
have a picture here of Senghor.
Yes,
if we can catch it, you know, in his
in a suit,
typical suit and tie.
You know.
So
yeah, I know you are very, you know, particular about the dress.
No. I joke about it because it struck me as quite stark that when they did they were all in almost identical suits, the men of the cabinet, in case anybody wondering what the picture is that I'm talking about. And none of them were in what I would call African attire, the men. But the women all were. There were only 4 women in the whole cabinet of 20-something people. So it was kind of, you know, senior ministers and junior ministers. And all the men were in Western suit and tie. And I found it quite stark.
Because, if you look at these people, they had in their campaign, agenda that very strong message for African unity, to promote, African culture, French,
anti-French particularly,
sentiments coming out of their campaigns. Of course, many, would have expected perhaps, because, our culture, the way we dress reflects our culture also.
That was why I commented on it, but I just wondered if in local language as well, you could kind of break down some of what we've just been discussing.
Yes,
so that it's not just,
jërëngeen jëf mbokk yi ñu ngi si programme bi fii nii man ak Adé Dramé tey réeréewu leen mbir ne président Jomar Jahar Faye nekk na koo xam ne biñ ko tànnee yàggut te biñ ko tànnee gis nañ ne def na tukki pour xool naka la muy mun a jëflante ak counterpart sami waaye dëkk bu mu njëkk a seet visit mooy Mauritania nag président bu fa nekk moom moo nekk acting chair of the African Union so si semaine bi la fa président Jahar Faye demoon ñaari fan si gannaaw so tey gis nañ ne mu ngi ñëw pour visit Gambia nag ak Sénégal suñ dégluwee si foreign affairs ministre bu doon wax bu yàggul rek mu ngi wane ne Gambia ak Sénégal yëpp benn bopp la kenn mënu ko xaar ñaar te loolu laa gën a gaaral si loolu gaaral naa ko tamit suñuy waxtaan man ak Adé Dramé ne soo demee Sénégal the same thing loolu lañ de bàkkoo si suñ diggante mooy ne benn bopp la te kenn mënu koy xar ñaar so loolu nag nekk na loo xam ne Sénégal ak Gambia seen lëkkaloo si seen relationship yàgg na ñu ngi koy wane in history si histoire yi Gambia ak Sénégal man nag wax naa ne balaa 10th of August 1889 amuñu woon lu ñu doon wax Gambia ak Sénégal soo xoolee ñaari réew yi nii tubaab bi ñëwoon nañ fi colonise mooy jël amee suñ doxale ni réew ba Sénégal French bi ñoo ko amee woon Gambia British yi so waaye balaa 10th of August 1889 pour gën a garal ne ñaari dëkk yi yëpp benn leen balaa 10th of August 1889 amuñu woon lu ñuy wax Gambia ak Sénégal so Sénégambia la woon ñaari dëkk yi nekk benn waaye under different administrations waaye da ngaa gis ne tubaab yi 10th of August 1889 lañ xaajale ñaari dëkk yi mu nekk ñaar tey nag gis nañ ne Sénégal ñu ngi wax French official language Gambia ñu ngi làkk anglais waaye soo xoolee si biir bu baax a baax a baax a baax ñaari dëkk yi nii ñu ñoo am benn aada lañ am benn làkk lañ am benn nit ñi la man sax wax naa ko suma waxtaan ak adene bu ma tukkiwee dem beneen réew China xool naa foofu noonu ku ma fa gis rek dama day mun a wane damay mun a prédire ne kii il faut mu nekk Sénégalais wala Gambien te lu bari am naa ko accurate kon li mu lay wane la ñaari dëkk yi benn leen waaye soo xoolee si biir ñaari président yi tey lii dafa nekk loo xam ne lu am solo la histoire bu am solo la ne président Diomaye Jahar Faye ñaareeli tukkeem si bitim réew Gambia la te tey dinañ gis ne ñaari président yi suñ jógee ko si airport bi léegi nii gis nañ ne si airport bi lu fa nekk di xew mooy ne ñu ngi introduce seen délégation si ak representatives bi fii si Gambia waaye suñ fi jógee ko rek ñu ngi expect ne dinañ dem State House te suñ demee State House ñaari président si dinañ toog ñoom ñaar ñu waxtaan si biir ñoom ñaar rek dinañ am opportunité boo xam ne ñoom ñaar rek a fay nekk ñu waxtaanee naka la ñuy mun a lëkkaloowee naka la ñuy mun a dëgëralee diggante yi ñaari réew yi nii ak naka la ñuy mun a dëgëralee interest yi ñaari réew yi nii waaye man wax naa ko si suma biir wax amaana suñ fa jógee koo sax na am agreements or corporations yoo xam ne dañ ko fa sign waxuma ne dina am waaye si bés yu demee nii yu mel noonu ñu ngi ko fay expect te su jógee ko foofu tamit dinañ jàkkaarloo ak taskari xibaar yi mooy journaliste yi nag moom nañ am opportunité pour ñu xool naka la ñuy mën a laajte questions am ay laajte yu ñuy laajte ñaari présidents yëpp su ko defee ñoom nañ wax ak askan bi lan lañ yaakaar ak lan lañ séntu si diggante ñaari réew yi nii so loolu pour tënk kàddu gi rek man ak Ade Dramé loolu lañ nekkoon di waxtaanee.
Thank you for that, Mr. Choi. And the viewers there would have just seen that they've gone past the stage of meeting the dignitaries and walking the red carpet, walking now towards, and then eventually they'll be taken to the VVIP lounge.
Yeah.
And this is a beautiful lounge.
Yeah.
Trust me,
Very
you
proud
see,
of.
it's beautiful and something that Gambia has a lot to be proud of in terms of that. And I'm sure President Adama Barrow will be looking forward to actually showing this to him and say, look, this is what we have here now in the Gambia. And so that's where they're going to go. And I don't know whether our colleague Aliu can tell us any more, but you know, they've gone past the red carpet and now they're entering the building, and they will be at some point taken towards the VVIP lounge. That's very, very important.
Very, very important.
Person's lounge.
I'm not sure the journalists
not just
will able to have access in that,
I don't think
lounge.
I don't think they'll allow them in.
I'm not sure if you are very, very important, Mr. Dramé. Are we?
It's no, I don't think we are. Journalists are not. Journalists are not. But also, I think as part of the VVIP lounge, there is a kind of there is an area for journalists. Actually, there's a press room.
Yes, in the VVIP lounge.
Within there, and I don't know whether they would allow anybody in there today, because I think
security reasons
for security and so on.
Considerations.
So yes, that's right. So I think, you know, come the OIC summit, they have said that some of the dignitaries may want to go to that room and take and field questions from the media, but we wait and see whether that is likely to be possible, because it could be a kind of logistical and security nightmare, and I think because of that we wonder. But some good chemistry there we saw between the two men. They hugged, of course, when he came off, and then
of course, yes, in the VVIP lounge we would also expect casual discussions.
Yeah, well, indeed, yes.
Nothing much, you know, formal.
Well, this is it. And as you rightly, a very, very important point you made earlier on is that these discussions are likely to take place in our own languages, not in the important or imposed languages, as I sometimes refer to them as, you know, neither English nor French. So most likely Wolof is what they're likely to be speaking to each other. But yes, it was good to see. And of course, you know, it's great that he's come at this time of the year. It's not the rain season or anything else. So the weather is there, it's hot. And all these dignitaries, all these diplomats. And interestingly, in case people are wondering, why do we refer to the Senegalese envoy as High Commissioner, I was told that Senegal is the only non-Commonwealth country that he is both ambassador and High Commissioner.
Oh, okay.
So if you're from a Commonwealth country and you are sent here, you are the High Commissioner. So Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria, they're all High Commissioners. Everybody else, you're an ambassador, American ambassador.
But Senegal's one is
Senegal,
also
he's High Commissioner, and he's the only one. He's both High Commissioner and ambassador to the Gambia. So
technically we can use either.
For that particular one, we can use either. Absolutely right. And in fact, I was corrected by this about somebody who's in sort of lectures on protocol. He said Senegal is the only one where you can use both ambassador and High Commissioner for the Gambia. For everybody else, they're either, like I said, for example, you hear people saying, I'm going to the British Embassy. No, you're actually going to the British High Commission. And the lead envoy there is the British High Commissioner. It's the same for Sierra Leone, for Ghana, for Nigeria, all the Commonwealth countries who have High Commissioners here. They're not ambassador. They are, strictly speaking, High Commissioner only. But Senegal, the person is both. So that's and that's an arrangement that they agreed on. So if you go there, you will see it says Haute Commissaire, so High Commissioner.
Yes.
So he's both High Commissioner.
Sure. So this is interesting. Diplomacy,
indeed,
you know, is riddled with so much protocols.
as I found being involved in the OIC summit, there's a lot of protocol.
That will be in display.
That will
be in display.
Sure.
You know, throughout this visit.
Sure.
It is important to emphasize here, Gambia's most important strategic development international partner is Senegal.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. For each country you visit, they will name. They will name which is number one.
Yeah, correct.
Which is number one.
Yeah.
You know, which tops the list in the order of significance. You know, diplomatic. You know, significance. And Gambia, our most important, you know, partner in the international community, is Senegal.
As we keep saying, that history has bound us together culturally, historically, whichever way you want to name it. Geography and history have forced us for that to be the situation for both of us.
Absolutely,
And
not because one would imagine, okay, we're receiving more aid
from this
support,
one or that one.
Countries like China, US, and other diplomatic friends we have. We are friends of these countries.
Sure.
Of course, they're bringing a lot of developments into the country in terms of infrastructure, in terms of helping us to reform, our system. But there are, it is quite strategic for Senegal to be in that place as, the most important diplomatic partner of the country. One of it, is the geographical location of our country. We are surrounded 3 times by Senegal, except the Atlantic Ocean.
I always use this phrase: we're in the embrace of Senegal. Yes, geographically.
So the security of Senegal is highly important for the security of the Gambia. The security of the Gambia is highly dependent on the security of Senegal.
Of course.
If Senegal is, is not stable,
is destabilized.
Destabilized.
Gambia.
There could be a spillover effect.
Absolutely.
We see what is happening in Casamance. The volatile nature of Senegal. The security threats spilling over into the Gambia, affecting some parts of Fonyi.
Yes.
So this is, in terms of security, it is important. And the Gambia, we cannot, except, through the Atlantic Ocean, we cannot travel to any other country without going using the Senegalese airspace.
Quite, absolutely right.
So if Senegal closes its airspace, how do we access?
So can we steal a phrase from Margaret Thatcher when she was referring to Britain and America? She referred to it as the special relationship. I think that is what we have with Senegal.
It's the special relationship.
Yes.
Of course. So these are considerations. Not the money we're getting, from our other friends, but these are highly sensitive and significant considerations that are put in place, to qualify such a country, in that kind of a position.
And because of that is why we want relations between our respective presidents to be special, to be particular, and to be, cordial always, really, because, there might be a time when one needs to call on the other, and vice versa.
Of course, here we're talking about, how much we depend, on Senegal, but also Senegal has interest in the Gambia. A quite number of its population is in the Gambia.
Sure.
Of course, we also, in terms of trade, most of our, of our imports would pass, through Senegal, Yes, so they have their people, in the Gambia here. Likewise, Gambians, there are, a significant number of Gambians,
Indeed.
In Senegal. When it comes to transportation also, looking at the Senegambia bridge, Senegal has really, showed how, strategically, how important that bridge it is for its economy, for its transportation, for the connection between the north and south.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, now you can travel to because not only vehicle and people moving, facilitating more proximity between the north and south, but also, the southern part of Senegal is highly important when it comes to, the agriculture, in terms of agriculture. So the movements of, of goods. Before, the emergence of that bridge, they had to, they would take a long route, and it will mean more cost.
Sure.
And of course, that could also reflect on the consumer prices. So it will affect, the Senegalese people. So we can go on and on, not only, in those areas, but there are several, fields that we could look into, and you will see there is mutual interest, okay, in the two countries.
Sure.
No country can stand alone. If you look at Senegal also, because of we're seeing the president, visiting the Gambia. Not only the fact that Gambia is closer to Senegal, but also the strategic importance of the Gambia in Senegal's foreign policy and international relations. And that is why we keep seeing things like this.
So let me change the topic slightly. Our colleague Ali Cisse kept referring to the fact that lots of PASTEF supporters were there. But you and I know that leading up to the elections, a lot of Gambian young people were quite galvanized by Ousmane Sonko and Bassirou Diomaye Faye because of their youth. The fact that these were young people, well, not youth, they're in their 40s, but because of how young they are. And we really were celebrating the fact that finally in Africa, young people are now being elected. They're not coming to power via the gun. And that was something that really, I wouldn't say surprised me, but because we tend to see young people get excited about young people getting close to the corridors of power. But so it's not just PASTEF supporters, lots of young Gambians who seem to have been energized by the fact that these young men are now the ones who are in control of Senegal's destiny.
That's right. Before I come, before I address that point, looking at Casamas, there's an ongoing conflict, and there's a military operation, going on there. The Senegalese military trying to tackle, the insurgency there. Without cooperation between the two countries, Senegal will find it very difficult to solve that crisis.
Almost impossible.
Almost impossible, because the rebels can easily enter the Gambia.
Yeah, correct.
Use the Gambia, as a hideout, or a launch pad, against the Senegalese forces. So this goes to tell you also somehow there is somewhat dependence, from the side of Senegal on the Gambia when it comes to its national security.
Indeed.
So that also makes the Gambia, highly strategic in the international community. In terms of cooperation between Senegal and the Gambia. But the young people were mobilized.
So in English and in Wolof, please.
Okay. So we see the young...
Okay, we can just see, before you come in on that topic, they're now leaving the sort of main terminal building, and they'll be heading towards that beautiful VVIP lounge, which is sort of slightly on the outskirts of the perimeter of the... okay, and that's I think we just see the building in the back there. Very
They're
nice
still
building.
within the airport.
Kind of, yes, within the airport, just on the kind of perimeter of it.
And right from there, they will be taking I assume it's going to the hotel.
They're meant to be going to the hotel from here, and so we can see.
It will take the Battle-Harding Highway.
Yes.
Of course, quite an opportunity for the president to show off
the beautiful Battle-Harding Highway and the improvements that have been brought about there.
Maybe if he had visited the Gambia before, maybe by visiting the Gambia again,
you'd be surprised.
The last time he visited
yes.
would have been some time ago.
Yes.
That would be marked improvements or developments that he would see.
And just to pick up on that point, I had some friends who lived here in the Gambia during the war in Sierra Leone, and they hadn't been in the Gambia for about 7 years. And so when people started circulating pictures of Battle-Harding Highway, they thought they were joke pictures, and they sent them to me and say, can you confirm this is actually what Battle-Harding Highway looks like now? And I said, yes, it is. So they were really quite shocked, and I suspect, as you rightly say, if he had visited before, even if he had visited a couple of years ago, between then and now, he would have seen quite a change.
This tells you how important development is.
Quite.
Because you're receiving your friends, you're receiving your counterparts into the country.
Sure.
If our development landscape or our development infrastructure is quite poor,
then it
makes
a terrible impression immediately.
Yeah, quite immediately.
Quite.
Imagine President Jahar Faye, this motorcade, riding on a very poor road, bumpy road with lots of potholes. Imagine how stressful.
Well, this is it.
Distressing that is for a highly important guest.
And embarrassing, as the president of that country. And now we can see they're about to hit that, and which will take them eventually to Bertel Harding Highway. And as you rightly say, I think the president will be quite pleased to show off
absolutely
the development.
And
yeah.
because of the the importance of the OIC summit, during which we're expecting 57 heads of states.
Or 56 visitors.
Or
The 57th is the president himself, of course.
Of course, 56. Yes. So
Yes.
because
Yes.
of that road, because of the high-profile guests we're receiving, that road, was born out of.
Yeah, quite. The improvements to the road, gone from being a 2-lane to now 6. Yeah.
I can tell you this: if that road was not good, if that road was still in its previous condition, there is no way that we would be qualified to host the summit.
I have to agree with you on that.
No matter how short the distance is,
sure,
you cannot receive high profile, some of the most powerful world leaders in this country.
Sure. Coming from very developed countries,
taking them on such a poor road.
It will be an embarrassment for sure.
An embarrassment. So quite important. And this is Gambia is witnessing some developments as a developing country.
Sure.
Whether some people like it or not, there are some developments happening in this country.
And who would not like it? I mean, who wants to be in a country that is not developing? And this is where sometimes we say, we remember when we had the national dialogue, and some of the things that came out were people were saying, yes, it's good to have political differences, but in terms of development, you cannot be against development happening in your own country.
Absolutely.
Because when development comes, everybody benefits. That road that we're talking about, it doesn't say this road is only for NPP party supporters or UDP party supporters. It's for every Gambian or every person who visits the Gambia. They all will benefit from the road. They will all benefit from the good infrastructure. We see the solar lights that are there, that are the street lights, almost all the length of Bertel Harding Highway. And at night, it's a beautiful sight. You and I have commented on it when we're going home. We leave the office at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and it's a beautiful sight to see it, beautifully lit. For some distance ahead of you. And if people haven't done that, I would urge them to go, because I was quite amused to see people just taking pictures, because it looks such a beautiful sight where at certain points you stand and you can see for 200 meters ahead of you, just in a straight line, all these beautiful lights at night, and people were just taking pictures of those lights.
Yeah.
So this is all part of the infrastructural development that
yes,
you're
of
talking
course.
about.
And people will be happy. The reason I said whether you like it or not, there are people who might not want to acknowledge it due to political differences or considerations. But whether you acknowledge it or not, the development is there for everybody to see, including anyone. So of course, President Barrow will be happy, receiving, his guest, who will be seeing some developments.
And nice to see Gambians there waving. Kind of lined up, and that's building, the kind of futuristic looking building there.
Gambia International Airport Office.
Yes.
At the Gambia International Airport Office. Very soon they'll be taking the Bertel Harding if they are going towards the Senegambia Strip.
Yes,
they would have to take the Bertel Harding Highway. Yes. What an opportunity.
And so, as you can see, they're slowing down, because obviously there are some supporters there, many of them waving Senegal flags, and the security are trying their best.
Of course,
they're trying their best to try and hold them off.
The Senegalese community is also present.
But the presidential cordon is going very slowly to make sure that they all get a good look at their president. They're obviously there, and I think he's standing up in the vehicle, and yes, we can see him standing up in the vehicle and waving at his supporters who are there in some serious numbers. And so we see both Senegal and Gambian flags there being waved, and yes, he's standing up in the vehicle.
So this is a united people, the people of
and the thing we've been talking about.
Yes,
because
the people of two countries coming together to show love.
Yes, I mean, this will really gladden his heart to see that not just the obvious supporters who are PASTEF supporters or Senegalese people, but that there are Gambian flags amongst them, which I presume are being waved by Gambians who also happen to support him. And I guess the thing I was saying about young people.
Yes, I said it. I said it in the beginning of the program. So many Gambians. In fact, the Gambia was divided. When it comes to support for
well, yeah, of course,
for some of the candidates, while some were supporting President, the then candidate, Jahar Faye, Ahmad Ba. So a large number of people were in support of the then candidate Jomai Jahar Faye, who is now the president.
Yeah, quite.
And for many people, who had wished that he became the president, would be very happy and will be, highly excited. And today is an opportunity. This is a rare opportunity.
Well, this is
to see a head of state,
quite.
especially from another country.
Well, this is
people will be very happy to see Senegalese president for the first time.
Yeah, quite.
In a very, at a very close range.
In one of his earliest visits.
Nice view, or look at him.
Yes.
And this is quite a historic.
And it's a beautiful
moment.
sight, what we're seeing now with the flags, as well as the crowd who are kind of, pardon me, jogging alongside the vehicles, which they've obviously, to make sure everybody gets a good look, they've slowed down appreciably, and you can see people standing on some of the vans and they're waving there, and it's a beautiful sight. And I guess, Troy, this is, as I said earlier, would really gladden his heart to sort of see that all these people are there. And as I said, a lot of them are probably young people who are Gambians, who are excited by the fact that, so as I challenged you earlier in both English and in local language about the youthful aspect of these people who have now taken the reins of office in Senegal.
It's a warm reception. Of course, I will speak in the local language. It's a warm reception, and it's very rare for a former head of state to have something like this in the Gambia. So people have come out to show love for their brothers and sisters, of the Senegalese people. So these are young people, of course, and there must be some lessons that we will draw out of it. Both countries, the population, the youth population, stands at a very high level in the Gambia here, more than 60%. Senegal, I stand to be corrected, up to 70%, have had. So they mobilize themselves. But of course, it took PASTEF, some time. Of course, they're very new in the, political spectrum of Senegal. But they were able to come together, as young people, of course, many of whom are young people who formed the party. Jomai Jahar Faye was among the founders, was among the founders of the party. Of course, having the head as Usman Sonko, and also the Secretary General. Here in the Gambia, something I've seen is, quite strange in the party governance structure. Having the leader of the party and also the Secretary General. Here in the Gambia, both are incorporated in one position.
Yes.
The party leader and the Secretary General.
That's right.
And of course, it's a different thing. So young people have come together, mobilized themselves. Of course, at some point it was tense. Okay, they were not happy with the system. They were not happy with the way the administration was managing, the way Macky Sall and his government was managing the affairs of the country. They felt that democracy was threatened. They felt that they were being muzzled by the president. Of course, against dissenting views and divergent opinions. Some were arrested. A lot of arrests. Protests happened. So, of course, they didn't like the system. So they had to mobilize themselves. They had to come, together. I joined the taxi some few days before the election, and somebody was telling me, "Oh, the young people are, the elderly, are supporting Amadou Ba." I said, "Well, I have seen a lot of young people supporting, Jahar Faye." And of course, this is democracy.
And you don't get elected just by young people voting for you.
Young people
It has to
voting
be
for you.
across the board, because when
Across
you
the board.
become president or whatever, you're not just going to work for young people, you have to work for everybody.
For everybody.
Yes.
Yes. So mbokk yi noonu waxtaanee si programme bi léegi ñu ngi gis ne président Diomaye Diakhar Faye ak président Adama Barrow jóge ko nañ si Banjul International Airport bi léegi nii jël nañ baatil Harding Highway bi, waaye si gannaaw rek gis nañ nit yu bari yoo xam ne génn si nañ pour teertu président bu ees bu Sénégal si njëlbeeni tukki si Gambia fii nii pour gisante naataangoom bi. léegi ñu ngi gis ne léegi ñu ngi si Badil Harding Highway bi di jubali hotel bu président Diomaye Diakhar Faye war a dal balaa muy dem si njiiti réew mi place bu mu nekk mooy State House. man ak Adé Dramé ñu ngi waxtaanee léegi ndaw yi seen rôle gis nañ léegi si screen bi ndaw yi bari ñu ngi génn. ba pare Sénégal tamit bu ñuy dem seen élection bi tamit gis nañ ndaw yi yëpp génn mu ma doon laaj naka la amee important pour ndaw yi bennoo participate in politics. waaye loolu dafa nekk loo xam ne dafa am solo trop si Sénégal seen politics bi, because soo xoolee parti Pastef of course yàgguñ si politique yi Sénégal noonu. si around 2014 2015 2016 période boobu la gaa yi dugga si politique bi form parti Pastef, waaye gis nañ ne ñoom ñu bari ay ndaw leen demee ne Ousmane Sonko Diomaye Diakhar Faye ñoom ñu si bari nekk ndaw booloo form parti. loolu nag nekk na loo xam ne yombut si dëkk yi bari si Afrique fii nii. waaye bu ñu defee loolu gis nañ tamit nguuri Macky Sall am na nu mu doon doxalee loo xam ne neexutoon Sénégalais yi bari, te loolu bokk na si lu taxoon tamit Pastef ñu foom ko. ndaw yi tamit ne il faut ñu xool naka la ñuy booloowee pour jëlaat seen réew ba pare wala mun a ñëw boolewaat ñëpp pour liggéey Sénégal. so lu am solo la because soo xoolee Gambia ak Sénégal yëpp wax naa ko fii nii Gambia fii nii lu soo xoolee téeméer bu nekk juróom-benn fukki ak lu tegal yëpp ay ndaw leen. Sénégal tamit the same thing. so lii dafay jàngale lu bari ne ndaw yi tey ak ëllëg yi ñaari réew yi su loxo ndaw yi lam des. so il faut ñu xool naka la ñuy booloowee pour jubale xool naka la ñu war a mun a développer suñuy ñaari réew yi nii. so lu am important léegi ñu si Badil Harding Highway.
If I could just tell the viewers quickly, they're just come over the flyover at Coastal Road. I know because I live about 100 meters from where they are now. But it seems as if the outriders who were leading them had gone too far ahead because there was a big crowd, and the motorcade wanted to slow down for the crowd so that he could acknowledge them. And I think they've now caught up again with them. But that was us. They had just crested the flyover there at Coastal Road. There's a roundabout underneath there, and there was quite an appreciable crowd there. And of course, because of that crowd, they slowed down slightly so that he could sort of stand up and wave at them, and he's now sat down again, and they're now proceeding still along Bilateral Harding Highway. Going past Paradise Estate as I speak. And in case people want to sort of position where they are right now, this is just to the right of your picture as you look would be Paradise Estate, where they're going through now. And that will take them eventually to what we call Sukuta traffic lights at some point, next 5 minutes or less, because they're going quite slow along that road. But yeah, this is the road I travel every day to work. So I know it
we
quite
travel.
well. We
so
travel.
yes,
Right.
both presidents are in this motorcade.
Yes, indeed.
And President Barrow will also see him off to the hotel.
Indeed.
And from there he will depart to the State House.
Sure.
And he will be followed by President Diomaye Diakhar Faye.
Sure.
and then the big meeting happens.
Well, this is it. Now, you were saying earlier that whenever a visit of this nature happens, there would have been a lot of diplomatic toing and froing, and it's a one-day visit, essentially. But do you expect much to come out of it? Because of the proximity of the two nations, they don't necessarily have to do or sign anything, although we've been told there will be a joint communique at the end of this. But I guess they don't have much time to, although the diplomats and the civil servants would have done all the preparatory work,
a lot of work
ahead of this, so that essentially
was quite busy in the last few days.
Yes, indeed. And so what they will do is that they will sign off on particular protocols, possibly, and that might be something that everybody will be listening out for and looking forward to.
And this communique would also set the tone.
Sure.
Would set the tone on how they intend to go about, deepening ties between the two countries.
Sure.
What are the areas they would want to explore more? What areas they would want to improve on in terms of transportation, people to people, contact. Okay, in terms of security.
Sure.
Of course, we still have this, some Senegalese, security. Senegalese security personnel who are here giving protection to the president, which is also, in line with the ECOWAS, the economic mandate in the country. So Senegal is not unilaterally giving security to the president, but this is part of the economic, contingent in the country.
Sure.
Which is led by Senegal.
Sure.
And that is
so.
very important.
If I take you back to President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, it is often said in politics. Many things are said in politics, but one of the things they always say is that getting elected is easy. The difficult bit comes to deliver. What do you see as some of the big things that he and his government have to tackle now that they've been elected?
Yes, one of the things is cost of living. Of course, Senegal imports significant amount of the food consumed by the Senegalese are imported. The same thing applying to the Gambia.
Sure.
These are common experiences of So how do you address that? It will take short-term and long-term measures. Of course, politicians during their campaign will tell you, when I come to power, we'll see how we can make sure that.
But he has something significant. They're about to get benefit from oil. So I'm sorry to jump in there. I beg your pardon. No, carry on.
So this is the elephant in the room, and we wouldn't lose sight of that. That fact. So of course, cost of living, is a problem right now in Senegal, and how he will address it will be interesting to know, in the coming months, in the coming years, because it will take, some time for, the new government to stabilize, the economy, and also for the people to see the effect of the transformations or the reforms that they will be implementing. So that is important. Jobs also the same thing. In terms of, employment opportunities, there are significant number of Senegalese youth who are unemployed, and as a result of which we are witnessing a similar experience, which is also affecting the young people in the Gambia, taking the back way, trying to reach Europe in search for greener pastures. So it's the same thing Senegal, is also experiencing, irregular migration of its young people, and high level of unemployment of the young people in Senegal. So there must be creation of jobs, okay? Not directly by the government. Of course, maybe the government will facilitate investments.
They have to provide the
enabling environment, as it
absolutely.
is usually called. To facilitate. Of course, the reforms that the administration would take in the coming few months will also give a very important prospects. Of course, the international community will be watching, investors will be watching, how it pans out. And then, if it looks good, if it looks rosy, if it looks attractive, there will be more investments, and of course with more investments, jobs are created and the young people will benefit. Of course the oil and gas, which Senegal, which is the
about to
big
benefit
thing,
from.
yeah,
Yes.
which is the elephant in the room, we have to discuss here. It has been discovered, you know, those who would be exploring it, you know, are also, you know, have already been, you know, designed.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, a contract also has been signed, and now, you know, he's very lucky. You know, previous presidents, you know, did not experience this, did not have this opportunity. So there is a, you know, economic potential, a new economic, you know, potential Senegal has to leverage on in order to address its domestic challenges in terms of employment, in terms of, you know...
but there's something also linked to that, and one of the reasons I wanted to mention it is because, in fact, they have said that all extractive contracts will be looked at. We hear this all the time. We've heard it in Niger, we hear it in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, and now even here in Senegal, they are saying that they will look at the ones who are going to exploit the oil and gas. And I think this is coming over the flyover at Turntable. I'm trying to place where they are for the viewers. Yes, so down below there is the place we call Turntable. Yes, and so they've just gone over that flyover, and now they are heading still along Bursell Harding Highway, which of course goes from Airport Junction to Sting Corner, but they won't be going as far as that. And if people want to place where they are now, they've just crested the flyover at Turntable, and they will be very soon getting towards, again, if you want to place them, GCCI building, the Maritime building headquarters there to the right of the picture. They will be coming past that very, very soon. And then very soon there's another roundabout, and then to the left of that, or the right of the picture, will be Cocoa Ocean. And so this, in case people want to place where they are, and kind of in terms of geography, that's where they are. So the sort of there's a kind of mini roundabout which they're going to come over, and there's a slight bump that they'll come across because Mr. Choi told me the other day they'd run out. Is it bitumen? That they've run out.
In French, it's a French word.
Yeah. It's the same. The same. The bitumen is the English version of it. Yeah. And yeah, it's what they use on tarmac.
That black thing.
The black. Yeah.
That makes that
the kind of
makes
sticky,
the road
sticky,
the sticky thing.
sticky stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've just kind of done that little bump. Yeah. And yeah, so good. And it's good to see that people are out and they're waving at them. These are areas that are, some of them are not high residential areas, and that's why you probably won't see lots and lots of people. But when they do get to the areas where there are sort of residential areas, of course, we expect to see many, many more. And yeah, they're just coming now to the other roundabout that I was talking about. And again, for those who want to place them geographically, when you go past this kind of mini roundabout, it's quite a small one, you then, Cocoa Ocean Hotel is to the right of the picture. Soon after they pass this particular small roundabout. So again, for those, this is kind of heading towards Senegambia, heading towards the Sadauda Kairoba International Conference Center. Again, and as Mr. Choi was saying, when you are a president and you have this kind of motorway to ride on, and you can proudly show it off. And I suspect the president will be saying, as you can see, there's what we call roadway furniture, being, you know, the bollards that stop people crossing over to pedestrian areas. And because that's something that happens a lot in the Gambia, where people kind of drive where people should be walking. So they're putting kind of road furniture to stop that. If you do drive across it, you'll wreck your car, deservedly. So he'll be pointing out all these things and saying, you know, this is still a work in progress, but it's 97% completed. So again, he can feel quite proud.
Now in the hotel.
And now they've gone into Cocoa Ocean Hotel, which I visited in the last couple of days, so I recognize it straight away. Lots and lots of monkeys in the grounds of this hotel, in case anyone who's never been there. Pardon me?
It's the greenery.
Yes,
of,
yes,
the
beautiful
hotel
greenery.
is quite
It's lovely.
appealing,
Yes, yes.
compelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, these were trees that were there because I understand it was part of the
monkey park.
The monkey park. And
Yes.
it was allocated.
Right.
But
right.
part of the decisions that were taken is to maintain the trees there.
Ah, right.
And
right.
still the monkeys.
I went there,
the
and as I
place.
said, I was there 2 days ago, and I was surprised at how many there were. I mean, I've always known there were lots of them, but honestly, without exaggeration, on that day, just in a couple of trees, there were about 30 monkeys. I mean, just a whole
They're
bunch
part
of
of the
them.
tourists.
Yeah, absolutely. And tourists were there taking pictures,
Yes.
of course. Yeah.
So it's only the monkeys that it's a 5-star, but
Yes.
the monkeys can go there and enjoy themselves for free.
Free, absolutely. They don't have to pay. And they seem quite happy, and they were frolicking about. But
Of
you
course,
said,
it's a compensation.
of course, well, indeed.
It was their habitat.
Yeah, well, indeed. Well, this is it.
And still.
It still is, and they've made it very much their home. But this is where the presidents will be, and this is where they will sort of. It's a beautiful hotel, and they will be there. They will be chatting there, and then of course the press will not be allowed into that particular place. But we've seen already that there seem to be a kind of warm embrace between the two leaders, and now I think we're going to see them descending from the vehicles. And yeah, the staff are then kind of lining up to also receive them. Members of the press corps are there, and the beautiful lush red carpet is also being unveiled and unfurled for them to tread on, leading up to the hotel. I suspect President Bassirou Diomaye Diakhar Faye will be saying, "Mr. Barrow, I love that road we've just we've just ridden on. It's a beautiful road." And there we see the management and staff of the hotel are there to receive them. And,
They must be very proud of themselves also receiving.
it's any hotel that receives a head of state. I visited a hotel in Cape Verde, and in the room there was a picture of the president, but it was the only room that had a picture of the president. So I asked the owner, I said, why? And she said, when he came, he slept in this room. And she said, if you look closely, the photograph is actually taken in this room.
Wow.
And so she said, of course, we had to take that picture and frame it. So, as you rightly say, a hotel that hosts a president, a head of state, will be very proud of that fact. And I'm sure over time, there will be lots and lots of pictures that the staff of Cocoa Ocean and the management will take and display to show this very, very important visit and this very important visitor.
Not only that the president is coming here, but his first visit, the first accommodation
is
right
their
here.
hotel. So they'll be very proud. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right about that, and we hope he can rest.
I believe it will also inspire more development in our tourism industry. More hotel would wish to have this.
Oh, this is it, because others will be looking enviously and saying, if we were up to that standard, maybe he would have come to our hotel. So yes, you're absolutely right. But also, if we can just briefly talk about the OIC summit, because that is also an opportunity. The number of visitors we're likely to be getting to showcase what the Gambia has to offer, both in terms of infrastructure, but also culturally, historically. There are lots of historically important places in the Gambia. And people might only be here for 4 or 5 days, because some of the media will come and they'll want to cover the ministers' conference as well as the heads of state summit. And they will want to say, on my day off, what do I do? Where do I go? Where would you take them as a Gambian?
You're putting me in the hot
I'm sorry. But historically, what would you see as the kind of important? For me, I've always said to people, Banjul. And when you and I were in Banjul the other day, you were pointing out the British cannons that were still there in the grounds of the State House.
Yes.
And we were saying, in a way, it's a shame that they should be in a place where people can come and visit, tourists can come and visit and take pictures, because there's a history behind them.
Absolutely.
And even, some of them, even in the direction in which they're pointing, there's a reason why they're pointing in that direction. there are stories to be told there, but tourists can't go in there because they're within the grounds of State House. So but
even though it is under the NCAC,
yeah, quite.
But for security reasons,
the security you can't start taking
members
people
of the public. Maybe only the president's guests. The president could have.
Yeah, and it's a shame because when you go to Buckingham Palace and places like that, there are days when there's enough grounds where they can open and public can go inside and take pictures. But in Africa we seem to be very you start pointing a picture at the State House in Sierra Leone. Once I did it and the guard threatened to shoot me. It was quite odd because I was there making a documentary on behalf of the president and I had to show them the letter. He still refused to let me take the picture, which I thought was bizarre, but he digressed. And I think we can go back to our colleague Aliou, who can give us a kind of nice roundup, Aliou, of what has been quite an historic day. Aliou, over to you.
Quite a great analysis there.
Like you said, we have now arrived at Coco Ozone, where President Bassirou Diomaye Diakhar Faye has just arrived here at the hotel, accompanied by his counterpart, President Adama Barrow. We understand from here the two heads of state will later meet at the State House for a tete-a-tete before before actually issuing a communique and having an engagement with the members of the media. But as you have been following from our pictures as we drove from the airport to the Coco Ozone here, we have seen a quite good number of people coming out on the highway to give Bassirou Diomaye Diakhar Faye a befitting welcome to the Gambia, especially at the main airport, Johnson. We saw a huge crowd of Gambians and, of course, supporters of PASTEF who all came out to give to welcome Bassirou Diomaye Faye on his maiden visit to the Gambia as president of Senegal. So that's what's happening right now. We are at Coco Ozone, and any moment from now, we will move to the State House where Bassirou, the president of Senegal, will later meet with President Barrow for a press conference. And we hope, the press conference will center more on the bilateral relationship between the Gambia and Senegal in terms of security, trade, among other issues, as far as, these two countries are concerned, Mr. Ade.
Wrapping up, viewers, we almost come to the end of this proceedings, but as Aliou mentioned there is going to be a press conference which we will be carrying here on QTV at 2:15 p.m. So if you have to go and do your shopping, run out and go and do it, because as our colleague Choi has emphasized and re-emphasized, this is quite an historic day, and it's the kind of thing you want to say, I saw it, I didn't miss it. And I almost envy those people who drove past my house. I wish I'd been there to see the motorcade rather than here in the cinema, in the studio rather, because it seemed beautiful, particularly when they went past Coastal Road and they slowed down for the show. So Joy, just some final words from you before we wrap up, and then we'll come back later at 2:15 for that press conference. And both in English and in local language,
yes,
please.
Thank you very much. I hope that we would reset the relationship, in terms of cooperation between the two countries. Of course, many Gambians, would feel that there are some, room for improvement. There are some challenges.
Right.
Transportation. Other countries are benefiting more than, more than the Gambia. Countries like Mauritania, countries like Mali, and we still keep talking about the fact that we are the same people. We are one people. I think it is important to be upfront. In this communication.
Which is why I asked you the question earlier. Absolutely.
In the discussion these two presidents would have. President Barrow now has, the opportunity for the first time meeting, a new president. Of course, he's able to briefly, give him, a summary of,
an honest summary.
Yes, honest.
Yes.
Yes. That's why I said it has to be, upfront discussion between, between the two heads of states, so that he's not, he might not be aware of, some of these particular challenges, even if he is. But for him to hear it from the, from the heads of, from the head of state, the way, he projects it, his concern and all of that will really help for us to improve our bilateral relations, to make sure that there is mutual respect, understanding and cooperation.
Sure. And you know, we see, you know, we keep saying historic. Well, it has been a historic day, and I'm glad that you and I have been here to witness it. And I think you've touched on a very important point there, which is about frankness and about honesty. Because if you are to proceed in the kind of mutually beneficial way, then if you start with honesty, then you proceed with honesty.
Honesty is important.
And so you mention, whilst you're welcoming your counterpart, you know, the problems that there have been, you know. But I think that's all we have time for. And we would ask our viewers to join us again at 2:15. Thank you for being with us, for staying with us. Just to thank my colleague, Mr. Mohamed Lamin Choi, who, when we come back, he'll probably be doing this bit and I'll be doing that bit. Just to say thank you for Mr.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. And to the viewers, once again, thank you for being with us. And do join us again when we come back for that press conference at 2:15 p.m. today. Thank you.